Well, let's get started this morning on time. Good morning. My name is Brett Augustine, a recovery business advisor for North Central Texas Small Business Development Center, a leading provider for assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, which allows us to offer our services at no cost to you. Today, oh my gosh, we have something really amazing. It's 5 keys to being a true professional. The first part, presented by Ms. Lorna Kibbe. Just a couple of items here. Whenever you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll be happy to get to those as we go. And or at the end, whenever Ms. Kibbe's ready for us to ask the questions. So just continue to put them in there and we will review them as we go. And I just want to let everybody know that Ms. Kibbe has been in America's Small Business Development Center conference speaker for many years, as well as 10 years experience working with the SBDC at Florida Gulf Coast University. She is a leadership expert, and if you've attended any of her other presentations, you realize just how valuable the information you're about to receive is. And with that, I would like very much to present Ms. Lorna Kibbe.
Hello, good morning. So, interesting story. I had to go get my hair cut this week. Can you believe it? Yep, even me. And I went to a new place because I've moved and I'm searching for the right place. So I go in and I meet this person for the first time, and she's very professional. She introduces herself. We don't shake hands anymore, of course, but I got the gist, right? And she began by saying, let me see, could you describe to me, what kind of a style you like? And I'm trying to describe to her because I just let it go crazy because I was worried about going to a new place, And she said, well, I couldn't really see in the pictures. How exactly do you want the back? And I said, pictures? So she had, turns out, done some research before I came in. She went to Facebook. And she checked out my Facebook photos to see what my style was like, which really surprised me because I don't know that I've ever had a hairdresser check it out in advance, which I thought, I'm a little scared and a little impressed. Not sure. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, she did some extra research. And then she pulls out 3 pairs of scissors and she begins to explain to me the differences in the scissors, which no one had ever talked to me about scissors before or explained it, but what's happening as all this is going on is I'm getting the impression that she really knows her craft, and I'm starting to feel pretty confident about her ability to cut my hair. Well, things got a little delayed and it was closing time in the studio where I was. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's closing time. And she said, don't you worry about that at all. We're just fine. I got this. And when you get ready to check out, we'll make an appointment for next time. I'm like, but isn't everybody leaving? It looks like everybody's leaving. She said, we'll be here for you. We'll be here as long as this takes. Don't you worry. I'm like, whoa, okay. So the whole thing just continues. I mean, at every juncture, she gave me some kind of descriptor or some kind of indication that she knew what she was doing. She helped me to feel really confident with what she was doing. She was very attentive to my needs. She was a true professional, and that's what came across in the way she addressed me. She had done some research in advance, which is definitely above and beyond. She wasn't concerned about the fact that everybody else in the studio was leaving and it was just her and I and someone to check me out. She explained her tools to me. She even went so far as to tell me about the process for sharpening scissors, which, okay, it's very important that you have your scissors sharpened at regular intervals, and you don't take them just anywhere. You have to be really careful. I mean, these are the marks of a true professional. This is what happens when you run into a true professional. They help you to feel better about the service that they're receiving, right? I was more confident in what she was doing because of the way she was treating me and the confidence that she was giving me in her ability. And here's the good news. My hair didn't come out exactly like it used to with my other hairdresser. But who noticed? Because she had set herself up for success. I was enamored with her. I was so enamored that the next day I called the studio, asked to speak to the owner, and told them what a great job she did for me. That's what professionalism does for us. It keeps our customers coming back. It gives our customers confidence in what we do. It helps us to feel really good about the service that we receive, like they know what they're doing. And most likely, yeah, I'll be a lifelong customer for that studio because of this person's thoroughness, confidence, professionalism. That's the mark of being a true professional. So today we're going to talk about professionalism, and I'm going to talk to you about the 5 keys to being a true professional. I'm going to share my screen now, if that's okay. Brett, is that okay if I go ahead and put my screen up? We ready for me? All right, here we go.
Yes, indeed. Go right ahead, young lady.
Okay. So now do you see my screen? Good? We good?
Yes, we are.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have a little tiny thumbnail here now. I can't see well. Okay, so let's talk about this. We started last week with an introduction to professionalism. For those of you that were here, thank you for coming back. And for those of you that weren't, don't worry. I'm gonna talk a lot about professionalism today and talk about the 5 keys. Last week we talked a lot about why professionalism is so important and why it's necessary for us to really pay attention to professionalism and understand it, and also the meaning of professionalism. And we looked at a very formal Webster definition of professionalism, and we decided, even though it was a good definition, we didn't love it. So we kind of came up with this alternate definition, which is what you see on the screen right now. Professionalism is not the job you do, it's how you do the job. Professionalism is someone's inherent ability to do what is expected of them and deliver quality work because they are driven to do so. And that's from an HR consultant. In our discussion, we agreed that that's a really great quote, and it makes a lot of sense, but not sure we totally agree with it. Because even though some professionalism is inherent, we also know that we can teach professionalism. As a matter of fact, this is one of the things that happens to me is in my job. I get these calls from managers telling me that the problem is that the people that they're bringing in don't know how to be professionals. They don't understand professionalism. And I ask questions like, what kind of behaviors are you seeing that makes you believe they don't understand professionalism? Well, they're not on time for work. Well, yeah, that would be a sign. They miss meetings. Yeah, that would be a sign. They don't dress appropriately. Okay, I can see that. They demand vacations even though they don't have any vacation time. And frankly, they don't care if they don't have the time. They'll go without money. Okay, yeah, they don't see the impact on the team. True, all of those things are marks of unprofessional behavior. But the next question is, what are you doing to show them why that's not professional? What are you doing to show them what professionalism is? And I think that's where we fall short sometimes. The roots of professionalism is true. There are inherent qualities that people come to you with. Hopefully they have some sense of, accountability and responsibility when they come to you. But understanding the parameters of those things is difficult because it can vary from employer to employer. For example, one of my customers that I worked with is in an office that has a season where, I'm in Florida, so we have these seasonal things. Work is crazy busy. I mean, these folks, it's a small business and they work like, oh my gosh, 15, 16 hours a day during season. But when season is over, which is at the end of spring training for baseball, they're not sure what to do with their employees because they don't really have enough work for them. But, ethically, they don't want to lay people off. So they're trying to just keep people on and find work for them. The problem is that during those down times, people don't know how to behave. They don't know what to do. And then employer really has to work to show professionalism, not just when we're busy, but when we're not. So this may be an opportunity for us to really work with our employees about how to be a professional. Now, some of it we teach and we can teach, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What can we teach? How do we do that? Here's what we know. Professionalism. True professionals, they just do a little extra. They're enthusiastic, they're confident, they move quicker, it seems like they just take special pride in their work, and pride's important. They find a way to make really ordinary jobs extraordinary. They find a way to make their work extraordinary, even when they're in a really ordinary job. So the thing is, we have to be careful not to assume that everybody just knows what professionalism is. And this is just a little recap from last week. You know, some folks don't understand professionalism. One question last week that I loved and hated was, do you think it's a generational thing? I don't really want to go there. I don't think it's a generational thing, but I do think that it's a sign of the way work has changed. You know, work has changed. And as work changes and new generations come into the workforce, they come in with different ideas. I mean, think about what's going on right now, and things are changing so much with the workforce. But until COVID, we had a situation where people were not graduating from college until they were in their early 20s, like 23, 24, 25, because it was common to go get your master's degree after you finished your bachelor's degree. So here come these folks into your workforce sometimes who are like 23, 24 years old. They've never had an 8-to-5 job, and they don't even understand what that means. They've never been required to wear anything but jeans and a t-shirt, you know, so they don't really understand how to dress professionally. And, you know, some colleges and institutions are really good at doing something with professionalism and trying to teach, but not always. So it falls on us. Just don't assume that people come to you knowing how to be professional. While you can certainly see some signs, we can't bank on that. So we have to teach it. We have to teach professionalism. We have to teach them how to be professional and what we expect. So I'm thinking I have like two fractions of this audience right now. And the first one is employers. If you're an employer, here's what I'm going to give you today. I'm going to give you this process for teaching professionalism. And we talked about this process last week if you were here. There's 3 steps. First thing you have to do is define what professionalism looks like in your organization. What are the rules? What do you expect? It's different from organization to organization. You know, just go Google dress code for Chick-fil-A versus dress code for Costco. You know, they have different dress codes for different work environments. A bank is going to have a very different dress code. So you really have to define for them what professional appearance looks like in your workplace. So what are the rules? Second, you have to teach them, right? Once you define it, you have to teach it, and then you have to continuously reinforce. So today, I'll be talking about the first 3 of 5 keys of professionalism. And this, if you're in this situation, you're an employer and you're one of those people that wants to call me and say, my people don't understand how to be professional. They don't know what professionalism is. This will give you a solid start on what to teach, what to look out for. If you are in the audience because you want to know how to be a professional, I have a process for you too. First thing is you have to learn the keys of professionalism. Then you have to commit to them and practice them as defined as in your workplace. And third, you need an action plan, especially if this is new to you, to make sure that you move forward with this. So one of the things you might want to do is grab a piece of paper right now, because as I go through each of the keys, I'm going to stop and transition to the next one and ask you to jot down some notes for your action plan. Like, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do once you learn this? How are you going to move forward with it? For those of you that are wanting to, you know, set these rules and teach your employees, you can jot down some notes about what kind of things are most important to you and where do you want to start. So I'm hoping that when this is finished, you won't just have listened to a webinar, but you will actually have some action steps for you going forward. Because truthfully, sitting here and doing nothing is a waste of time. You've got to take what you learn and go back and apply it. So take some notes and mark down what's important for you and what you want to take forward. All right. Okay. So the 5 keys, here they are. It's PEACE. The acronym is PEACE. Professionalism, peace. It's corny, but maybe it'll work for you. It worked out. So these are the 5 keys: personal choice, excellence, attitude, class, and expertise. And today we're going to focus on 3. This is part 1 of this session. And next week we'll do part 2 and we'll talk about the the other two keys. So are you ready to dive into these and get really specific with what these mean? All right, let's go. First one is personal choice. It's true that in many ways, professionalism is a mindset, and it definitely is a choice. It's a choice that you make if you want to do this. You get to choose. You get to choose to hold yourself to a higher standard of performance. You get to choose to leave mediocrity behind. You get to choose to be the best that you can be and do the best that you can. But you have to commit to that. You have to commit to being a professional and all that comes with it. So it's a choice. So if you're doing an action plan, you may want to start with getting a mindset that you want to do this, that you choose to do this. Because if you don't have that mindset that you want it, that you choose it, it's not going to happen, of course. See, in a large way, it's a matter of pride. And I think pride is really what drives a lot of professionals, because I think it's a lot about pride. You know, pride, like you do something carefully and you do it right, and you feel so good about what you've accomplished. There's just this great feeling of satisfaction when you do something really well to the best of your ability. So, and that's nothing to be laughed at. I mean, having that sense of pride and feeling good about what you accomplish is so important to your mental and physical health. But it means that you set really high standards for yourself. You know, you take ownership, you contribute to a greater purpose, something that you're really committed to. Just like my hairstylist, you know, who really went above and beyond to give me a great experience. This is a lot about honesty, integrity, trust, and we can't really say enough about the value of trust. I know you've heard about trust before, but just think about in history, can you think of anyone who maybe has tarnished their entire reputation with one silly act? I can think of a few people like Clinton, Nixon, Tiger Woods, Mel Gibson. I can think of quite a few. Just one act, you know. So think about for you, who do you trust the most? What people do you trust? I mean, who do you know around you that you really trust? Why do you trust them? What are they doing that makes you really trust them? You know, to go back to my hairdresser, I didn't trust her at all when I walked in the door. But when she started talking to me about her craft and explaining to me how she was using the tools and making me feel confident in her, my trust started to grow. It goes a long way. I ask you to think about people you trust and people that you don't trust and identify why, because that will help you in knowing how to behave so that people will trust you. And of course, it's about being honest, you know, about telling the truth, and being forthright. Some folks think, you know, it's okay just to tell a partial truth. Not really. You know, we're all hoping that we are in a work environment where there's transparency and honesty. And to be a true professional, you have to be a part of that, even when it's hard. And believe me, it's hard a lot. You know, integrity means having the strong moral principles and keeping your promises. So maybe this is something that you want to work on. Responsibility. Being responsible. Being on time, meeting your deadlines, keeping your promises, accepting responsibility for what you do, being dependable. There's this story about J-Lo, you know, Jennifer Lopez, and she arrived for an interview with a reporter early, and the reporter was so taken aback because no celebrity ever arrives for an interview early. And he actually published this, put it out. She said that she knows that being on time shows that she's a professional. And so she always tries to arrive a little bit early because she feels like that's a sign of professionalism, being responsible, being on time. I think she's right. So taking responsibility, and sometimes that means, you know, taking responsibility when you mess up, when you're wrong, and being willing to fess up to that. So being responsible, you know, I don't have to worry about you. I know that you're going to meet your deadlines. I know that you're going to do your work. I know that you're going to do a good job. I know that you're going to take care of business. I know that you're going to report to work on time every day and do what you need to do. And that goes a long way with an employer, just being able to trust, know that you're responsible. Of course, we could put it this way: with great power comes great responsibility. From Spider-Man, right? Uncle Ben. Yeah, I like that quote. With great power comes great responsibility. I think it could be reversed. I think we could say, with responsibility comes great power. Because when you're responsible, people trust in you and they give you more power. Lorna Kibbe's opinion. Be diligent, be productive, be efficient. When you're at work. There's a lot of personal stuff, of course, and I would never suggest that you can totally separate professional and personal life. I know there are a lot of opinions that are opposite of my feeling on that, because people think, work is work and home is home. But I really believe that as we go forward, especially after what we've learned and experienced with COVID, is that there needs to be work-life, not balance so much, but integration. And understanding that all of these things, we're only one person, and all of these things are in our mind all the time. I never managed to just completely put work out of my mind, and I never managed to put family completely out of my mind. But learning how to balance that so that when you're at work, you work, and you don't spend time being paid for your personal matters is really important. That's what you use your breaks and your time off for. And being honest sometimes with your employer about what's going on, that maybe you have a personal situation, but instead of trying to grunt through it and waste company time, take time off and deal with it. It's a part of being responsible as well. So keep the personal stuff to a minimum, but really work hard, I guess is what I'm saying. Work hard. You're being paid to work hard. All right, and let's talk about personal appearance. We have to talk about personal appearance. This one's kind of tough because, our standards of professionalism have changed, right? This is kind of funny. I found this, if you're looking at the screen right now. This is a poster that I found from White Castle in the 1940s. White Castle was a little hamburger restaurant business in the Midwest. They make these little tiny burgers. I grew up in Ohio, and, we'd get 10 White Castles at a time for like $10 or something. It was a heck of a deal. So this was their dress code poster. I thought it was really funny. So in case you can't see it, it says things like, wear a clean headband properly, wear a hairnet with hair neat and close to your head, correct bad breath. And there's little arrows pointing to all the areas. So they have an arrow pointing to the mouth that says correct bad breath, get rid of chewing gum, no necklace or earrings, no body odor, moderate amount of makeup, brush your teeth. Yeah, no wristwatch, no flashy jewelry, clean fingernails, wear a clean tea apron. So back for White Castle in the 1940s, this was a professional appearance, and different organizations have different standards on appearance. Whatever the standards are for your organization, try to go just a little bit higher. If they say, here's a uniform, everybody's going to wear the same uniform. I'll tell you a great example. A lot of government organizations, and I work with several, have Columbia shirts for their field staff. Those Columbia shirts, the outdoor shirts, they're very nice shirts, and they have their logo sewn on them, and they're cooler for outdoors. I'm in Florida, so they're really nice. But there's a difference between the people who iron their Columbia shirts and the people that don't. There's no requirement that you iron your shirt for the most part. But boy, there's a real difference in people who iron their shirt. You just look at them and feel better about them. Is it justified? Is it right? Who cares? That's reality. So, they take care of their dress just a step above. So I would say to you, whatever your standard is, if you can just take one step above to make sure that your uniform is clean and crisp and no stains, that your logo looks nice. If you wear a polo shirt, that logo curls up. If you just put a little iron behind it, lays flat, looks good. Crazy stuff. but professional appearance is really important. So whatever, if you're an employer, making sure that you're very clear with your people about what professional appearance looks like. And if you're thinking about, how do I be more professional, start with appearance is really an important part of professionalism, because people are judging, people are making decisions about whether they should be confident in you, right? And of course, we have to talk about ethics. Ethics is a critical part of professionalism because it means that we do the right thing. It's how we meet the challenge of doing the right thing when it will cost more than we want to pay. Ethics is tough. I have a little quiz for you. Here you go. What would you do? You're using one of your team's primary software platforms and you accidentally delete a large block of data. Oh man. Working on your own, you manage to restore the information. You're about 90% confident that there will be no problems here, no adverse effects. What do you do next? So here's your choices. First, you can keep the issue to yourself. I mean, this is a good option because probably everything's going to be okay. Why rat yourself out, right? Or you could wait to see if any of the teammates have a problem. And if they do, then you can fess up. Okay, that seems good. I'll tell them, but only if necessary. Or you can proactively notify everybody that this happened. Notify your teammates of the situation. Of course, the most ethical answer here is to proactively notify your teammates of the situation. But that's kind of hard to do. But that would be the ethical thing. That would be the right thing to do. Ethics are tough. If you're an employer, I would say to you, we are going to have a session on ethics in this series coming up in a couple of weeks. And you definitely need to attend, because with ethics, the problem with ethics is that we don't talk about it enough. We like a harmonious environment, and sometimes we just kind of don't worry so much. We just trust that people will do the right thing. But the truth is, people don't always know what the right thing is. They really don't. For example, I was working for the state for a number of years, the state of Florida. We were so strict with our supplies that, this is true, in order to get an ink pen, I had to turn in my ink pen that had run out of ink. I'm serious. So I go to work as an independent consultant, and I start walking into companies, and they have these supply cabinets. They're beautiful. They look like a Staples store. They have pens and stuff everywhere. It's like so amazing, So I use one of their pens to do a seminar. It's one of my first engagements. And when I'm done, I hand it back to the person that, was kind of overseeing me there and helping me. And they're like, well, you can keep the pen. And I'm like, but it's not out of ink. It's your pen. They're like, no, we want you to take it. It's advertising for us. Boy, I didn't understand that concept because I was working for the government all those years, but I just didn't know what was right, and our employees, in opposite, when I hired somebody from the private sector and they came in, they just thought it was fine to take boxes of pens at a time. They didn't see any problem with it. I know that kind of stuff sounds kind of trivial, but it leads to big problems. So ethics is definitely something we have to talk about when we talk about professionalism. And we'll be talking more about that in a couple of weeks. Okay, so it's time for your personal plan on this one. And this one is about making a personal choice that you want to be a professional. So what you need to do is record 1 or 2 ideas that you're going to act on to make this a personal choice. So what do you think? Maybe step up your appearance a little bit? Or let's see, what else could you do? Maybe you really work on that integrity thing to make sure that people trust you. You think about what trust means to you, and you can take action to make sure that you are more trustworthy, that people will be more confident in you, perhaps. Responsibility, making sure that you take responsibility for your actions no matter what. And that way people can see you as a true professional. Let's see, be more productive, maybe, be more productive, make the hard call on an ethical decision. Or maybe the action step here is just to make up your mind you want to do this, So take a second and just identify for yourself what you'd like to do to be more professional by making the personal choice. All right. Our second key for today is excellence. Excellence. No surprise here, right? Okay, so excellence. Let me tell you how this impacts people. So this is a picture. For those of you that are watching the screen, you can see this. And for those of you that aren't, I'll describe it. I walked into one of my local grocery stores, and there was a banner up to tell me where the canned vegetables were, which was a great thing. And there were two signs, on one end of the aisle and one at the end of the aisle. And the word vegetable was spelled differently on the two signs. One was correct, one was not. This was not a store I had been in very many times. So my confidence was shaken. I'm like, wait, they misspelled vegetable. And I took a picture and they're so close to each other. It's like, it's obvious that there's something wrong. One of those is wrong. So I couldn't let it go. I asked to speak to the store manager. And I said to the store manager, I haven't been in here many times, but this kind of rocks my confidence a little bit. It's like these two signs are really close together and one of them is misspelled. And he's like, oh, I see. Okay, thanks for letting me know. So I went back in the store about 2 to 3 weeks later. Guess what? No change. They were still there. And guess what happened next? I decided not to go back to the store. Because if and you've heard these stories, but it's like, if they can't get this right, and when someone brings it to their attention, they don't care enough to fix it, then where else are they falling down? What else is going wrong in this store? Can I trust them at all? And that's a sign of excellence and professionalism. When you are excellent, when you show excellence, people's confidence increases in you, they believe in you, and it makes a difference. So excellence is important in professionalism. And for you, one of the things you can think about is just really going for it, do that little bit extra, go that extra mile. I mean, be bold, go out there and do more than is expected of you. Go for it, be bold. This is a sign of professionalism. Just like my hairdresser who went to Facebook, for the good or bad of it, and looked at my pictures so that she would have an idea of how to cut my hair. I mean, that's definitely above and beyond. So go for it. Maybe that's what you want to do, is just be a little more bold, be a little more brave, and put yourself out there to do a little bit extra. Kick it up a notch. What can you do to improve your excellence? And there's all kinds of things if you just look around you. It can be a little thing like just cleaning your desk so that you look more organized. Look at your workspace. Is your office, do you have like ratty chairs that would make me go, do I want to sit on this? Or does your office look like a professional office? Is it clean? Is it presentable? Is it organized? Is it cluttered? Maybe the speed at which you do things. Could you do it a little quicker? I mean, do you have to drag it out? Maybe you could find a way to increase your productivity or your accuracy. Double checking things to make sure that you don't have mistakes, that it's right. Go that extra mile instead of just running spell checker. Actually read the document backwards to make sure that it all makes sense and there's no errors. When you read it backwards, you can see mistakes that you probably wouldn't see otherwise, because the spell checker doesn't catch everything. So accuracy, just check what you're doing. Research, check Facebook before the customer comes in. Whatever you can do to really increase your knowledge and be more excellent in what you're about to do. What about the systems and procedures that you have in place? You've heard this, that many times when there's a problem, it's not the people, it's a procedure or it's a system that's outdated or could be improved. So just think about the process, especially if you're an employee. Like if you're someone that's kind of new to an organization, that's a tremendous advantage, because you can see things in ways that people can't see that have been there for a while because they're so used to it. This is just the way we do it. This is a great opportunity for you to maybe really help, if done in the right way, to increase productivity, to change systems, to change procedures, to make things even better for the company. So look for those kind of opportunities. They're really all around you, to be honest. Here's one: find a mentor or an accountability partner. someone to challenge you to improve yourself. Interesting story. Interesting to me anyway. Hopefully interesting to you. I'm doing a certification class for a set of credentials that I really want to have for my business. And one of the requirements was that I have an accountability partner. I almost ditched the whole thing just based on that. Like, I really don't need an accountability partner. I'm a professional. It's like, I'm going to take care of business. I'm going to do what I need to do. I don't need anybody looking over my shoulder to make sure that I did it. But if I want the certification, if I want the credential, I have to sign on for the accountability partner. Okay, fine. So I did. You know what? It is turning out to be a great thing. I didn't realize. And the reason it's a great thing is because if I know I have a meeting coming up with that accountability partner, I have to do the work before the meeting. So instead of delaying it and procrastinating and putting it off and not paying attention to it as timely as I should, I'm on it because I know that I'm going to have a call with somebody who has no power over me, no authority over me really at all. But just to be able to say, yeah, I did that work and here's what's happened and here's what's thinking, and just hear their comments on it sometimes, it makes my work product better. So I was not open to that at all. And now I'm like, wow, this is a really good idea. When I started my business, for those of you who are business owners, one of the first things I did was I went to someone that I had met in one of the associations that I was affiliated with and said, I'm starting a business. I've been in government for 24 years and I'm not really sure about the business part of it. I don't know how to do some of this. I don't know how to get customers and that kind of thing. And I was wondering if you would mentor me. That person was so honored that I asked them to mentor me that, well, I have to give them credit. I mean, Jim Jacoby helped me start my business. He took me with him to his engagements, to his proposals, to where he went and proposed his pitch to people. He showed me how to do it, and then he got me jobs. Can you believe it? What a guy. He really helped me to launch my business because I was bold enough to say, will you mentor me? Will you be my mentor? And it's been just a remarkable relationship. And I've mentored many people. So don't be shy about maybe asking someone if they would be your mentor. For many people, it's a great compliment. And especially if you are, if you're in business, if you're a business owner, this applies to you as well, to increase your professionalism. There are many things to learn, especially now. Oh my goodness, the technology. Some of these folks that have been in college for 25 years are pretty sharp on technology. I've had a couple mentor me, and it's really helpful. So yeah, think about, maybe finding a mentor or maybe even being a mentor and finding, maybe an accountability partner, maybe even a coach. But don't be shy about getting some help to help you increase your excellence. Pay attention. Oh, this one is hard. We need to respect others by being fully engaged, being present in the moment. Many people call this mindfulness, being present where you are instead of multitasking. When someone comes in to talk to you and you believe that you can continue to do what you're doing while they're talking to you, how rude. A true professional will do one of two things in that situation. They'll either put everything down and listen to you and pay attention, or they'll say, oh gosh, I'm in the middle of something. Can you come back in 10 minutes? That would be appropriate. Hopefully you know by now that multitasking is not a real thing. It's not something that you can actually do. If you don't believe me, go Google multitasking and read all the studies because there's lots of evidence. I mean, there are some things that you can kind of do at the same time, but what you need to know is that your mind can only focus on one of those things. You may have three things going at once, but at any second, any point in time, you're only focused on one. Think about driving to work. How many times have you driven to work and went, I don't remember driving here? You're able to drive and at the same time listen to an audiobook or get really wrapped up in music or maybe have a phone conversation, a whole phone meeting and not really remember which that's kind of scary and dangerous. But you know what I'm saying? Your mind can focus on a lot of things, but only one thing in any point in time. It's focused on one thing. It can shift very quickly from one thing to another, okay? But it can't truly focus on two things at once. So multitasking is not a real thing. So if you're really proud of the fact that you can multitask, I have some bad news. Multitasking is not a real thing. Just Google it if you don't believe me. But the point here is to be in the moment that you're in, to really pay attention. This is true professionalism, to be with that person, to give them your attention, to really pay attention to what's going on, to what they're saying, to everything around you, so that you can take it in and really be better informed. This brings us to communication, and a really big one, active listening. And I'm sure you've probably been to listening seminars and you know how important it is to listen actively. But just a reminder, listening actively means that you really listen to someone as if you were going to repeat back exactly what they said. It's a different way of thinking because it requires total mindfulness. Usually when someone's talking to us, we have a tendency to be thinking about what we're going to say next, how we're going to respond, if we're even listening to them at all. And while we're thinking all this in their mind, they're still talking. And then we start thinking about, now that I think about it, I had something like this happen once to my great Uncle Jim. And while we're thinking all that, they're still talking. And we're missing part of the message because all of these things that we're allowing our minds to wander off to. It's even possible that while you're listening to this webinar, your mind has wandered somewhere else. I can't imagine that you're not so riveted that your mind may have wandered somewhere else, but I suppose it could have happened. So really, we have to make an effort to listen actively and to pay attention and to be mindful. This is Nick Walenda. If you can see the screen, Nick Walenda he's one of these folks that, walks across high wires at great risk. He's like walked across, I think, the Grand Canyon in Niagara Falls or something, all this weird stuff. And I want to show you this picture if you can see it. He's riding a bicycle across a high wire. And this is actually in Newark, New Jersey. It's about 135 feet high. It was on the Today Show. And he was doing this feat where he was riding between these two high rises in New Jersey and New York. Okay. All right. I don't know. Anyway, they were televising it. It was live. There was no net. And this happened, I can't remember exactly when this was. It was 2 or 3 years ago. Well, Matt Lauer was still the anchor there. So that tells you how long ago it was. But the funny thing was, he's riding this bike on this high wire. He's trying to set a world record. And if you can see the picture, you can see that the wire has a slight incline up. Well, the bike had the tires removed, of course, the rubber was gone. So what he was riding on was like that metal rim of the tire against this metal cable. And when he got right past that little juncture where the thing starts to go up a little bit, his wheels started spinning. The pressure he was applying to the pedals was not propelling the bike forward. It was just not going anywhere on that wire, and so the metal against metal wasn't working, wasn't getting any traction. And it was really scary for a few minutes because it's like, it's just when reality TV started. And I'm thinking, I kind of glanced over the TV. I was getting ready for work, and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's falls. He's really going to die. I got to watch. So I dropped everything to watch this, So he struggles for a few minutes, but finally, he made it across the wire. And, he was like, and I remember Matt Lauer said, that was kind of scary. And Nick Walenda says, yeah, I got to admit that was kind of scary. And then Matt Lauer asked him what I thought was the stupidest question I'd ever heard anybody on TV ask. I couldn't believe the question he asked. He said, so, Nick, what would you say to the people at home who are watching this? And I'm like, oh, come on, what a stupid question. Of course he's going to say, hey, don't try this. I almost died. But that's not what he said. It was fascinating. He said, and I'm going to read his quote. He says, don't try this at home. Don't try this at home. It takes a lot of practice. Yeah, definitely people can learn, but it takes a lot of practice and dedication to do things like this. What? People can learn? Like I could learn how to do that? That's amazing. I couldn't wait for my husband to come home so I could tell him that I wanted to learn how to do that. Of course, he said no, and that was the end of that. It was probably a silly idea on my part. Why am I telling you this story? Why? Because I think this describes active listening. I think active listening is something that anybody can do if they decide to do it. But it does take a lot of practice because it takes mindfulness. And it's a really important part of professionalism. So yeah, it takes a lot of practice, but you can definitely learn. Pay attention. Follow instructions, but question when warranted. Oh, this is an interesting one. Take responsibility for making sure you understand what it is that you're being asked to do. But that doesn't mean just flat out doing it because you were told to do it. I mean, you have to use your head to think about whether this makes sense. So before you begin the task, make sure that you kind of double check that you're doing the task the right way and that the instructions make sense. I told you that I worked for the government for a long time, and one of my units I was in charge of was it was all of children and families in foster care, adoptions, and investigations, child abuse and neglect. And my adoptions people, they were great people. They were trying so hard to get kids adopted, but there were so many roadblocks and so much bureaucracy. But I had this one counselor who, it was remarkable. She had a couple of kids that she was trying to find a home for, and along the way, she found out that there weren't just 2 children, but there were actually 4. And they were between the ages of 3 and 9. And they had been placed in all different homes, so nobody had even connected the dots that these kids were all related. The only reason she found out the kids were related is because in her research, and I don't know how she figured this out because it wasn't obvious, she found a grandma. And she went to see the grandma. Now, this was not required. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even normal because grandma hadn't even been on the radar. Nobody even really knew about her. But when she came back from the visit with the grandma, she was determined that she was going to find a way to take these 4 children from 4 different foster homes and put them with grandma and have grandma legally have legal custody. It was insane. The house grandma lived in had 1 bedroom, hers. It had a very small kitchen, very small. It was a very tiny house, very tiny. No way could you put 4 kids in this house. So, the first thing is when she came with this, we were like, here, me, the boss, well, let's look at the rules, let's look at the policy, let's look at the procedure. And the answer is no, because the house will not fit these kids. So there's no point in you wasting any more time on this because there's no way around this. We can't legally place 4 children with no bedroom. We can't do it. But Victoria didn't stop. Victoria was the ultimate professional. She said, I want to really work on finding a way to do this. I understand the roadblocks, but I want to try. All right, but I don't know what you're going to do. Victoria, to make a long story short, went to Habitat for Humanity, appealed to them to build a house for this family. Can you believe it? And they agreed. Now, there were a lot of roadblocks along the way, but Victoria jumped every roadblock. There were so many reasons why this would never work. But today, those 4 kids have all graduated from high school after living happily with their grandmother through their years in their Habitat home. Victoria spent hours volunteering as a Habitat volunteer and rallied everybody in the office to be Habitat volunteers. Yes, even me. I learned to swing a hammer. I mean, she rallied everybody to take care of this family and make this happen for these children, even though there were so many roadblocks and no way it should have happened. That's what I'm talking about. She didn't break any rules. She followed the instructions, but she didn't give up. The ultimate professional. She found ways to go above and beyond and make this happen for this family, even though everywhere she turned, there was something saying, you can't do it. That's a true mark of professionalism. Somebody who, went the distance and made it happen. So if you're that person who's thinking, wow, this is hard, how do I approach this? How do I let people know that I'm questioning without getting myself in trouble? So I have some phrases for you, ways to make your thoughts visible. So here's some things you might try. You can say things like, let me make sure I understand. The only reason that you're telling me not to move forward is because the law says that I can't put 4 kids in a home where there's only 1 bedroom. That's what I said. Okay, I can work with that, right? Here's what I'm thinking and why. And that's what she said to me. Here's what I'm thinking. I think I can find a way to get a better home. Can I try? Sure, go ahead. So you are saying that it's okay for me to pursue this, to look a little further, even though I understand that the way it is right now, I can't put the children with her, right? Do you mind if I summarize? Because I just want to make sure I have this right, Or can you help me to understand your thinking here? Are you really telling me that I can't do this? But there's no way to go? So these are just some phrases that you might use if you're that person who's trying to be professional and still, figure out how you can buck the system a little bit to make things better. So communication is a really important part of professionalism, and knowing how to do it right so that you appear to be professional and responsible is important. And if you are in the situation where you haven't had this kind of training, that might be your action item, is to get some training in communication to make sure that you can have these kind of conversations. It's time for you to record 1 or 2 ideas that you're going to act on to increase your levels of excellence. If you're an employer, then maybe you're going to record a couple of things that you want to make sure that you include in your training and in your standards and rules for your employees. So, just pick one. Maybe you're just going to kick it up a notch in a specific area, like just kick it up a notch. Maybe you're going to really make an attempt just to be in the moment and pay attention to what's going on around you. Maybe you're going to find a way to question instructions just to make sure there's no misunderstanding so that you can do things right. Maybe you're going to find a mentor or an accountability partner, or maybe even volunteer to be a mentor. So there's just a lot of things you can do here to really increase your level of professionalism. So take a second to just record for yourself a couple of ideas about how you're going to use excellence to become like the ultimate professional, or to teach professionalism to your employees. All right, so far we've talked about personal choice. It's a personal choice. That was our P in peace. And we've talked about excellence. And now for our A, let's talk about attitude. This is our third one. This little girl's got attitude, doesn't she? Your attitude makes a big difference. And we have to understand that attitude is really up to us, because we can't change the people around us usually, but we can change ourselves. We can change how we respond to things. Being positive, being optimistic, avoiding negativity. This is what this is about. And when a professional has a positive attitude and believes, like Victoria did, that we can solve problems that are unsolvable, it makes all the difference, right? And a lot of that is mindset. Just having the mindset, that you're going to have this professional approach to everything you do. You're going to go above the standards to present things or do things in an extraordinary way. You're going to be a self-starter, without somebody having to tell you what to do or to start a project. Always positive and optimistic. Setbacks, you're able to spring back and say, man, that sucked, but okay, I'm going to move forward. I'm not going to let that define me. Funny, I had a call this week from someone that I've been mentoring, a young professional, and she had a terrible setback at work. She was devastated, and it was so bad that the next day her boss called in to talk to her to ask her if she was at work. Like, I thought maybe you would resign. And she said, no, yeah, that was a setback. That was terrible, but we can move forward. And that's exactly what she's doing. So that takes a lot of guts, because it was a major setback, but she's optimistic, has that positive attitude, and she's going to spring back and be better for it. And that, like 2 days later, she was saying to me, next time that happens, here's how I'm going to handle it differently. There you go. All right. Being passionate about your work, your organization, even your family, and being really confident and believing in yourself, believing in yourself, the mindset, believe. This is something I think is really important. Believing in yourself, but believing in something even bigger than that. I really think you have to believe in your organization. You have to believe in their purpose. You have to believe in their mission. You have to believe in the brand. With all that you are, you have to believe in what you're doing. And you have to be loyal to it. If you really don't believe in your organization and what they're doing, if you don't experience like a sense of pride just to tell people where you work, then maybe you should think about whether you're in the right place. Because you can do a lot of harm to yourself and to your organization if you're out there bad mouthing your organization or telling tales about your organization. Never believe that these things that you say in a casual setting aren't going to go somewhere. Never believe that you can just at a casual dinner with friends badmouth your organization and that's going to be the end of it. The story's going to come up somewhere else. Oh, I heard some stories about that organization. And if you're the one spreading them, it'll probably come back to get you. So really, if you don't believe in your company and if you can't, keep your mouth shut about that kind of stuff, please try to find something else. You're in the wrong place. You should really just feel a sense of pride in your organization, believe in what they're doing, believe in the mission with all your heart. So you got to believe, and you got to believe that you are in the right place and that you're there for a purpose. And maybe part of that purpose is to help others, because helping others is important here in your attitude. Just having that service mentality. You've heard of that probably, that means that you don't wait to be asked to do something, that you're willing to volunteer, jump in and help others, that you're empathetic, that you understand the feelings of other people, that you show enthusiasm, when it's appropriate, which should be a lot of the time, hopefully, and being responsible, like we've talked about, owning up to what your responsibilities are and to what your mistakes are, and being adaptable, just being willing to jump in and help others with whatever others need help with, just being willing to help. Just like in the background of my story about my hairdresser was another employee who has stood up in the back and stayed after hours to check me out so that my hairdresser could give me this excellent level of service, right? She was helping out. That just increases my feeling about the salon that I went to, that professionalism is at such a high level that no one questioned that they would do what they had to do for one customer at that moment in time. So helping others. Just having that can-do attitude. And I want to talk about this for a minute, because one of the things I teach in communication is something I call can-do language. And I think that this, when you're looking at your action plan, this might be a good one for you, because this works for me so well. It's really helped me tremendously in my business, because many times people will call me or come to me with requests that make me roll my eyes. To be frank, it's like, you got to be kidding me. You want me to do what by when? And I'm thinking, I'm probably not the only one, where in my head I'm going, are you nuts? There's no way we can do that. I mean, that's just not even a reasonable request. What are you thinking, And what I've learned to do is just be quiet in that moment and be reflective, so that none of that comes out. Instead, what I'm doing is formulating how I can answer that request in a positive way. So when somebody says, hey, Lorna, we're having our retreat next Friday, and, we didn't really line anybody up, but we really need someone to come in and do a keynote for us on motivation. Can you do this next Friday? And we want it to be customized, and we have this whole list of problems we want to send you. And, can you craft that for us and do it? And inside I'm going, do you know how long it takes me to develop that kind of a customized message? Do you know how much time I spend researching before I even write a word? Do you know how much effort I have to go through to make sure that I've crafted this exactly the way you want it? No, I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm saying I can do that for you 2 weeks from Friday. But no, Lorna, we need it next Friday. I can do it 2 weeks from Friday. And stick with that can do instead of, I can't do that. Do you know how crazy that is for you to ask me that? Do you want a good product or what? That has helped me so many times with my business, because one of two things happens. Most of the time, believe it or not, people will say, okay, we can reschedule for 2 weeks from Friday. That'll work. And I get the job. The second thing that happens is they start to question, but I need this. But when I stay on that track of this is what I can do, then it makes a difference. So if they're insistent with me in that situation where it needs to be next Friday, then if I need to modify my message to them, I'll do this. Okay, I can do next Friday without customization. I can do next Friday by using a speech that I've already written. I'll customize it as much as I can, but it definitely won't be to the level that you're asking. I can do it without reviewing your list of requirements. So I just change it all to what I can do. And you can just hear how that makes a difference in the language. Hey, Lorna, can you have lunch today? I can have lunch tomorrow. So I really make myself stop and think about that can-do aspect and that can-do language, and it makes a huge difference for me. And I think it really does increase my level of professionalism, because I'm always, very positive in my communication and try really hard. And sometimes I really have to try not to come through with that negativity or, the things that I can't do. So can-do language, maybe that would be a good one for your action plan, is to start talking in terms of what you can do. And to tell you the truth, this really works at home too. It works really great when my family asks me to do crazy things, and I think, I tell them what I can do. So can-do language, that's a good one. That's an important one. And I'm going to add to this one on attitude, being a good teammate, because I think it's really important to be a good teammate. It goes back a little bit to helping others. But I think right now it's more important than ever. And actually, we're going to do an entire session on being a good teammate and give you some really good information on how to be a good teammate and what you can do. But being a teammate that is not just helping others, but affecting things so that the team benefits, so that the team overall is great because of your presence, because of what you contribute. That's what I'm talking about here. Let me show you something. So pre-COVID, all right, this is what teams used to look like. We had a team, we had the red team, the blue team, the silver team, the brown team, and these teams were each responsible for their own thing in the organization, right? This was a lot of what was happening pre-COVID, although it was starting to change right there. But we've had such dramatic changes in the workplace. Now most teams look like this, where you'll have a couple of people from the red team, a couple of people from the silver team, somebody from the blue, and then next week you change it all up, right? It's like these shared values, transparent goals, information flow. It's a network now. It's not just the red team, the blue team, silos, right? Silos. Those silos are dissolving. So if I am this little blue guy right here, I'm a teammate, it's really important that I'm a good team member, not just on this team, but on this one and this one and this one. And if they move me around wherever you've moved me, I have the skills. I have the professional skills to be able to perform well on any of these teams, because I understand how to be a good teammate, right? So this is what I'm talking about with this. And if you don't have any training or don't know how to be, a good teammate, join us for our seminar coming up on that, because we have one coming up on that, or get some training on teams, being a good teammate. And I guess for excellence, the other piece of advice I would give you is just don't give up. Be determined, especially when you really feel strongly, like Victoria did about, the kids in foster care and getting those with their grandma. Be determined, don't give up. There are lots of examples in history of people who have had challenges, right? Good old Thomas Edison, remember his quote? He said, I haven't failed 10,000 times. I've successfully found 10,000 ways that did not work. Abraham Lincoln, boy, what a life he had, right? Do you know how many failures Abraham Lincoln had? So I went online and I looked up Abraham Lincoln failures, and it came back with all of this. Yeah, a lot of trouble. Listen to this. In 1816, he was 7 years old. His family was forced out of their home, and he had to go to work. He was 7. 2 years later, his mom died. Then his first business in 1831 failed. In 1832, he ran for the legislature. He lost. In 1832, he also lost his job, applied for law school, was denied admission. The next year, he borrowed money from a friend to start a business, and by the end of the year, went bankrupt. He spent 17 years paying that off. So the next year, 1834, he ran for the state legislature and he won. Amazing. In 1835, a year later, he was engaged to be married, but his fiancee died. Unbelievable, right? The next year, he had a nervous breakdown. I was in bed for 6 months. You believe this? In 1838, he sought to become Speaker of the state legislature. He was defeated. In 1840, he was defeated to become elector. In 1843, he lost in his run for Congress. In 1848, he ran for re-election, was lost. In 1849, he was trying to become the land officer in his home state. He was rejected. In 1854, he ran for the Senate. He lost. This just goes on and on until 1860. He was elected president. Can you believe it? Who could believe a history like that? And he's such a successful man that we all remember. I was when I did this, I pulled out my book, Lincoln on Leadership. I don't know if any of you read it, but boy, that's a fascinating book if you're interested in leadership. Really, really great. But the bottom line here is be determined. A true professional just doesn't give up. They stay with it. They stay with it. Do all that they can to be a professional. Okay, so it's action time. Your personal plan. So what will you do to really improve your excellence and therefore improve your professionalism? So let's see, you could, one thing is to really dig into your company mission and purpose and make sure that your values are aligned so that you can really authentically believe and be proud of where you work and the mission and understand it. Maybe you want to work on being a great teammate, being a better teammate, learn how to improve your skills of being a team player. Encourage others. Maybe that's something you don't do enough of, and that's something that you would like to do, which will increase your professionalism. You can learn a whole new language, can-do language. You can practice that, try to do that. Maybe work on your enthusiasm, your optimism. Just, it's a mindset. You make up your mind to do that. One thing you could do is just quit complaining about everything. Try to turn it positive. Don't be that Eeyore character in your office. What's interesting about that kind of character is I think a lot of people who are really negative don't really know that they're negative, and it comes across in their language and in their thought process. So maybe a little self-examination there. If you feel like you're complaining a lot, people are probably hearing it twice more than you even realize you're complaining. Maybe take the initiative on the next project without being asked. Just jump in, and just being willing to help others more often whenever the need arises. So take a second and record a couple of things that you would like to do going forward to improve your professionalism in the excellence category. Okay, so what's next? Well, for you, what's next is to take what you've written down with your action plan and put it to work. You now have quite a few tasks to work on if you've been following along with me. We've only talked about 3 of the 5 keys to professionalism. We're going to do the other 2 next week and summarize. But next week, if you join me, please come back with your action plan. And boy, I'd just love to hear some updates on that. I know it's really hard in this forum, but it's remember that professionalism is a choice that you make. So you make up your mind that you want to be the ultimate professional, and you now know a lot of things that you can do to really work on your professionalism. Next week, we'll do the last 2 keys. There are 5. Today we did personal choice, excellence, and attitude. So next week, we will focus on class and expertise. And I can give you a little preview on that, but before I do, I want to stop and see if we have questions.
Okay, anybody that has any questions, please put them into the chat box as I requested at the beginning. We'll give you a couple minutes to do so. I just want to say thank you again. I love the stories you have, Lorna. Oh my gosh. Not just the history lesson from Lincoln, but I love the stories about how you connect all of this together in real life situations and in our offices, and well, those that have offices, even if it's your home office. You've made my action plan personally about, it looks like 2 pages so far. Thank you. But that's okay. I'm going to start with cleaning my desk. Just, does anybody have any questions? Please go ahead and jump into the box if you have any. Happy to receive them. It doesn't look like there's very many right now, because you always explain things so well. That's a good thing. I did notice that you have the can-do aspect. I mentioned something. I heard something that I've kind of lived by in those people that have sales roles in the past as managers. And it's time, money, and quality. Pick 2, but you don't get 3. you get 2. You want it on that time frame you were talking about, for example, in 1 week? You bet. It's going to cost this much money, and the quality is not going to be what I could deliver. But you pick the 2 that you want to go with that. And I found that to be very true, because a lot of people are very budget conscious, and then it's like, okay, give me time. In my spare time, I will do it and make it happen, for example. And you can still have the quality that you need, but that's to reach their budget, for example. So I found that very applicable to what you were saying.
You know what, Brett, that makes me think about my niece that just visited me, who is going to be 3 in September. She's like 2.5. And her parents were presenting everything in terms of choices. And I thought really that this was a brilliant technique. I used it on my child when I was raising her, but they would say, you can do this or you can do this. And maybe that's part of can-do language. I should extend it, I can do this for $1 million by next Friday, or I can do this for $1,000 2 weeks from Friday. Your choice.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. And Paula actually has a story she would like to share.
Fantastic.
Okay, this is one that I wanted to share last week when we were talking about professionalism and social media. I know someone that worked for a company, and he was unhappy, and he went on to social media and started blasting the company, and was surprised when the next day his boss fired him and is actually suing him for libel. Okay, that's understandable. What he forgot is that his landlord was his boss. And so the downstream effect of him blasting his company and not being supportive, or not, talk to your boss as opposed to social media, was that he lost his job and his
I've heard of the Darwin Award. That sounds a little bit like that to me.
I hate to laugh, but you just go, wow, just wow.
Yeah. When I see that happening, Paula, it's disturbing to me on many levels. First, that somebody wouldn't consider those kind of possible, that retribution,
Yeah.
but second, just that they feel that way and they're publishing it, whether it's at a casual dinner on social media or just to a friend. Why would we ever be so naive as to think that that was going to be the end of it? And that's the one level, but the second level is just worries me, because that means you're not happy. If you're not happy where you work, if you have problems, if you can't talk about that in the workplace with your boss, you have trouble. And you can't swallow that stuff because it just builds up, and pretty soon you explode and then you do something ridiculous, so you need to be taking care of those kind of issues in the workplace with your boss, with your team, with your coworkers, that transparency. And like I said, honestly, I know this is hard for people to hear, but if you really can't dig that out, if you really can't do that, you're in the wrong place. You got to make a change.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not healthy, it's not good.
Exactly.
So we have one other question here real quick about mentors. You mentioned getting a mentor would be a great idea as well, and they would probably feel honored. Is there a selection process that you could recommend? Because you don't want to just go out there and get mentored by the nearest millennial about something because you think they know Facebook really well, for example. But is there a process you could use to choose, or a way you could tell us to direct you?
Sure. I've been involved with some formal mentoring programs, and we had a whole mentor-mentee match application process. I'm a mentor for the University of Cincinnati for students. I put my stuff out there, the students put their stuff out there, and there's a whole match process where we try to match, people that will be compatible and make sure that it's effective. The problem with any kind of program like that is that it can go wrong on either side if we don't just keep up with it, commit to it. So to me, the best mentoring relationships are when it happens the way it happened for me, where I found someone who I knew had the skills that I was lacking, that I needed help from, and I self-selected that person and asked them to participate with me, and they had a choice in it. So they were committed because they bought in, they wanted to help me. They were committed. I was committed to them. I think that's the best thing, is look for the self-select, select the person that has the skills that you feel that you trust and that you're comfortable with, to go and just take a stranger. Now, maybe if you have somebody who has a skill, but you're not sure you want them to mentor you, just ask them to help you with this one thing on a special project and see how it goes, So I agree, you don't want to hook up with somebody that you don't want to be hooked up with. The mentoring relationship's really precious and important, and it doesn't always work. I have some people that I've mentored in a formal program for 6 months, and that was it, and then other people, it goes on for years. So.
Right. Thank you. And that's great advice. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying by saying that basically to choose somebody that you're comfortable with or that has the skill set that you need, and let them buy into it and keep it on a personal level there rather than going through a third party or something like that. Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Formal programs do work, but that's kind of a whole different animal. I actually did a session on that for SBDC at the conference one year about formal mentoring programs. So I know there are some out there, and maybe that's something to talk about in a different webinar.
Well, thank you. That's all of our questions at the moment. So if you want to proceed.
Okay. So next week, we're going to finish with the final 2 keys, which, on the C and the E are class and expertise. And class is really about your personal style. So we're going to talk about you being a classy person and how to do that. And we're going to talk about your expertise, where it is, where it needs to be, where you'd like for it to be as a professional. But there's no question that people who take self-action to increase their expertise, that's a step above, so that is truly a sign of professionalism. Like a haircutting person who has scissors that she has sharpened at regular intervals and takes pride in her equipment, that her equipment is so good, this is her expertise, this is her craft, and it makes a difference to your customers. So those are the 2 we'll be talking about more in depth next week.
Great. Well, if that is everything for the moment. I want to say thank you so much again, Lorna, for everything that you do and all of these coming up. Don't forget, everybody, this is definitely only part one. And if we want to know how you enjoyed it, I'm going to give you an update real quick, share this with everybody of what all is coming your way. 5 Keys to Being a True Professional, Part 2. Lorna Kivy is going to be on June 30th, followed on the July 7th. When we come back from the 4th of July, we hope you all have a really good 4th of July celebration. Enjoy your Independence Day. Ethics, a higher standard. And that one I think everybody should attend, and don't forget to invite somebody else too, because the more ethics we have in the workplace, the better we all are, and we know it, because that keeps us all moving forward in a positive direction and keeps us accountable. So July 14th also, how to be a good teammate, as she was talking, and a good person. I can't wait to see how that's going to combine. As well as the 21st, the key to success, how to get along with people, all people. That should be very, very fun. So we want to thank Lorna Kibbe for all of those classes coming up. And we also want to thank everybody who's going to attend it. Don't forget that she gave us all a little bit of homework, those of you that were listening, to come back with your active plan, okay, or your action plan for our next session. So hopefully you took notes this time and you paid attention, so you can show her that you are all professionals too. So with that said, I just want to say thank you again, Lorna, and we're going to send a survey out after this. So if you want to get copies of any of the presentations or anything, that will happen through the survey. Take a moment to just do it. It only takes a couple minutes, and it lets us know how we're doing with these different webinars, as well as other things. The up and coming webinars we've already talked about, but the SBDC website is always changing and has updates. So please check it out. To register for more webinars, get contact information to meet with an advisor for your company, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're just looking to get started, or maybe you've already got a business. They're here to help. And you can schedule an appointment directly through a website. We also have many other resources, including a library of information. So please utilize those services. We're happy to help in any way we can. We also want to thank the Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and North Central Texas College, for all of them coming together as sponsors to make sure that this can happen for you at no cost. We thank you all for joining us, and we appreciate your time. We look forward to it. Go have an amazing week. Thank you again, Lorna. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, everybody. Do your homework.